Okay, so now we're going to start assembling our model box. So here we have an example of a model box. This one is built out of foam core. You can kind of see the edges here of the foam core. And it's just a nice proscenium stage. This one is done in black. That's kind of the standard, is just to make them black unless you're doing some sort of treatment to the proscenium that is part of the design, which is always a possibility. But it's a frame. It shows the proscenium arch here on the front. And then from the top, you can see it's called a model box because it is indeed a box. So we're going to build one of these for ourselves. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take that copy of the ground plan that we had, and I have now lost the other piece of, there it is. And I've already glued this half on, but we're going to take this one. So you'll notice there's sort of a dotted line. It's probably very hard to see right now, but it's labeled CL, which stands for center line. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to cut along that line, and we're going to do this on both the stage right and the stage left prints of this stage. So just cut that off like that. And then we're going to take some sort of glue. Doesn't really matter. I like glue sticks for this a lot because they're not so terribly messy. Spray adhesive also works really well for this, but spray adhesive is kind of toxic and I'm kind of against it at this point in my life. I think I've probably breathed enough spray adhesive fumes in my life that I don't need anymore. So, but regular glue will work too. Just something so that you can attach it to your base, because what we're going to do is we're going to use this kind of as our guide for building the rest of the model box. I'm going to line this up. This is the edge of our apron right here, so I want that to basically be aligned. My paper might be stretching a little. Sometimes, depending on the kind of glue you use, your paper might stretch a little. It's fine. So stick that down good. Okay. And now we have our ground plan. And we might need a little extra glue around the edges. I didn't glue this part out here because we're going to cut that off anyway. But I am going to glue down the places where I need it to be glued down. All right. And now we have a nice ground plan stuck on some nice cardboard. All right. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it out. Now there's a whole lot of fiddly stuff in here that we really don't need for the purposes of what we're doing. So we're going to go ahead and just cut the big shape. So I'm going to start here. Whenever you're cutting with a craft knife like this, you want to put your straight edge down. I like to put it over the part that I am wanting to keep, so that when I cut, if my knife goes shaking off to the side, I've got the piece that I want to keep is still uncut, right? I'm going to hold my knife nice and straight. I want this blade to be as parallel to the straight edge as it can be. I'm going to press down, get through the layers of cardboard. I'm just going to pull across like that, right? And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. You'll notice if you're doing this on cardboard, when you cut against the corrugations of the cardboard, it can get a little bit rough, but it'll be fine. So over here on the edge of the proscenium, when there's all this other stuff going on, I'm just going to kind of cut that off. I'm just going to cut a straight line. Sometimes I do this in like 2 cuts rather than trying to do it all in one, just because it's a little bit easier than trying to cut all the way through that. It saves my blade, it saves my muscles. So I'm going to cut right into that corner like that. And I'm going to come over here and cut this edge off. That's now trash. Bye. And this is the back wall of the theater, so I'm going to go ahead and cut everything off behind there, just because, because I want this to be as, you know, small of a profile of a thing as I can have it be. That's trash. Cut this off. And then down here, same thing. I'm just cutting this front edge of the proscenium line. I'm trying to stop my cut before I, you know, pass the line that I don't want to cut. Sometimes that means I have to go back and kind of jam my blade back into those corners to get those corners to come apart, but that's okay. I can do that. Hopefully my head isn't totally in the way here. I am standing as I do this. I find, for my own sanity, that it works much better for me if I stand. I can see where I'm cutting a little bit better, and I have better control of the blade. So that's just a little thing to think about. If you are comfortable doing this sitting down, it's fine to do it that way as well. This is just what works for me. So as you can see, I'm kind of having to go back in a few places and kind of recut things. But there we go. Now I have the ground plan of my theater space. Now, what I might choose to do at this point, normally if I were doing this, I would have the ground plan of the set already figured out. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm not asking you to do a separate ground plan. So if you want to just start building on here, go ahead. If you want to, though, you could also choose to sketch out a ground plan. I've lost my pencil now. There it is. You could sketch out a ground plan if you kind of know. If you want to play around, so let's say you remember we talked about those return walls. There could be a return wall there, and there's a wall here, and there's a doorway in that wall. And again, I can kind of, I have this note on here, on this piece of scrap that I tossed away, but it says ground plan grid, each square is 2 foot by 2 foot. So if I look at these, I know that, you know, a doorway is around 3 feet, right? So I can kind of estimate how big things are by using this grid as a guide. So that will also help you if you're not using a scale ruler to make sure that you're keeping things relatively proportional. So this is definitely not a Blythe Spirit ground plan. I have not paid any attention to anything. But let's just say it's got a back wall here. There's another archway door here. And a wall that comes down here. And this way I can kind of plan out where I'm going to put things and what I want to do with it before I get too far into the building of things. Once I have that done, I can start assembling my model box. Now, because this is an old shipping box and it's got some places that are a little flimsy on it, I'm actually going to take some leftover scraps of cardboard and I'm just going to glue them onto the back here. Should have checked to make sure I had good glue before I started. This one's kind of gunky. I haven't built a model in a while. My glue is gone kind of. That's okay. I'll just do it this way. I don't actually recommend using your glue like this, but sometimes you find yourself in a position where that's the best way to do it. But I'm just going to glue a couple of strips of this other cardboard underneath here. That'll help stiffen it up a little bit. I'm going to use that end because it's kind of... I would probably eventually put another piece here just so that this doesn't fold down on me, but I'm gonna skip that step for the moment. So basically just putting another piece underneath the apron so that there is something supporting it so it's not just kind of floating in space. You could just do this with 2 layers of cardboard too. I just happen to have these scrap pieces lying around. So, and then I flip it back over. I don't want extra cardboard hanging off, so hack that off, and that is trash. Okay, now this is pretty rigid, right? If you're building this out of foam core, you obviously don't have to worry about these kinds of things. So